5:20, and I would like to open this public meeting. We are missing Commissioner Joe Kayer, so I will need a motion to excuse Mr. Kayer from this meeting today.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Towers, to excuse Commissioner Kayer for tonight's meetings. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, this is a public meeting, and it's to hear comment on the Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for Curry Park electrical upgrades.
Thank you. For this evening is, later on in the agenda will be a couple resolutions in support of applying for a couple of DR trust fund applications. One is for Curry Park, which is this public meeting. The next one is for Depot Park. Curry Park involves electrical upgrades to the system there. Both grants are for $50,000, 25% local match, so that's $12,500. With the Curry Park, there's a $5,700 local cash match that the city is putting forward. That is coming from its timber sales that it's previously designated for. The remainder will come from forced labor through the city as an in-kind type of match. In addition, I'll also just kind of touch on the Depot Park one, which is for a playground. Again, $50,000, 25% match. Again, it's $12,500 local match. The city will have a $3,000 cash contribution. In addition, the DIDA and Funds Club have also put up $1,000 of their own funds towards the local match, so a total of $5,000 for cash local match. The remainder will come as forced labor through city services. And with that, I would answer any questions. Otherwise, take comment from the public. Again, there's two resolutions later in the agenda to approve the grant submission.
Michael, did you say that our city match was identified as coming from the timber sales?
Correct.
On both of these?
Correct.
That's all I have.
Commissioners, any other questions? No? Okay. This is a public meeting, so if there's anybody in the public that wishes to speak on these items, we have to hear comment on Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for Curry Park electrical upgrades. Is there anybody wishing to speak? Okay, I have a closed comment on that. It is 5:25. Our second public hearing is to hear comment on the Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for Depot Park Playground. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? No?
I do have a question.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it. So one of the things that we should be thinking about is that when we're dedicating funds and whatnot, is that these sort of match our goals, the city goals set forward. I would like Mr. Brown to identify what of those city goals that either of these grants would satisfy.
Sure. Both are actually part of the Parks and Recreation, 5-year Parks and Recreation plan that the city's adopted. So both of these components are in that plan. In addition to, I know that the city's been talking about Curry Park for a number of years. The need for the electrical upgrades in order to bring the campground up to par to compete with other existing campgrounds in the area for electrical services. In addition, the Depot Park Playground was actually part of the original grant and project that was done last year, but because of budget cuts, the playground had to be eliminated at that time. So again, it's been on the city's radar to do this project for the last couple of years. With the Depot Park project, there actually was a plan that was done prior to applying for that grant, in which a playground was identified.
Thank you.
I believe both these items too are on our commissioner and the set up list as well. They may not have been on the top list, but I believe we've addressed them before we have the commission's list as well. Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Any comments from the audience tonight on this? All right, we'll close this public meeting. We still have a few minutes for our next public meeting, or a regular meeting that starts at 5:30. Well, my computer says 5:30, so I would like to start this right in the meeting. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item D, recording of the roll.
All present except for Commissioner Care, who has an excused absence.
Thank you. Item C, approval of consent agenda. Are there any changes we need to be aware of?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Towers, second by Commissioner Sin to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? Roll call.
Seymour.
Yes.
Sin.
Yes.
Tower.
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes. Item D, receive and place on file from the Finance Director, 1, statement of revenue and expenditures, and 2, the cash report.
Thank you. Tonight I'm reporting the financials for the month ending February. Through the end of February, we should have expended approximately 67% of our budget. First page is the general fund. Moving down to the bottom, the period fund balance at the end of February, we're in the positive. In addition to that, we do have unreported revenue sharing for January and February to the tune of about $115,000. Overall, the general fund is healthy. On the right side there, some of the departments you'll see are getting closer up to 100%. That's just because of the timing of their expenditures. The major and local street funds are both in rough shape. We have expended a lot of funds, maintenance on the roads, and of course snow plowing, snow removal. Some good news is that we recently learned that we are to receive an additional $30,000, approximately $30,000 of Act 51 funds for our streets. some staff down at the MML conference last week, and we heard that good news. So that definitely will help. We're in the process right now of going through budget amendments, necessary budget amendments as a result of the harsh winter, and we'll bring that back to you for further discussion. But overall, there are not any deficit, the funds themselves as of yet. We do maintain some fund balance in both the local and major street funds for this type of thing. Not a ton of money, but there is some. The remaining would probably come from the general fund. The equipment fund is still in good shape, of course, as local streets, major streets, water, sewer struggle. Equipment fund prospers. Equipment fund is in great shape. The water and sewer funds are okay. We've seen our water fund take a pretty good hit here with the water freezes, the thaws, the main breaks, water leaks, all of that. You see the period fund balance is still positive, which is good. We do budget approximately $100,000, I believe, in this year's budget for maintenance structures, which are kind of set that money aside for a big project. With these water issues that we're having, probably doubtful that we'll be able to do a big project this year. But fortunately, we do have those funds available for essentially maintenance structures, waterways, things like that. Some of the smaller funds, the library fund, is doing okay. I see they appear to have spent 97% of their budget. They did receive an $18,000 grant last fiscal year. We need to do a budget amendment to put the expenditure side of it in this fiscal year. They have spent that. We just need to do the budget amendment for that. Again, they do receive about $20,000 in penal fines after fiscal year end, so they're usually showing in the negative as they are here. Civic Center is in decent shape. They did receive that donation of $150,000. That is showing in the revenue. Of course, they haven't spent all of it yet, so they're looking like they're in really good shape. But even without that donation, they would still be in good shape. Cemetery fund, we've seen come to a halt here with snow, but they're in good shape as well. And then the smaller funds are reported there. I just want to note in the Economic Development Fund, we have last month, this month, transferred funds to Northern Initiatives. They have now taken over our loan fund. So we still take in revenue for the current loans that are out there, and there's a new process for places to go for the revolving loan fund. So we will, on a quarterly basis, be transferring funds out to them as we take in funds. And of course, we will recoup our costs for that as well. Not 100%, but we will get reimbursement for some funds. That's the statement of revenues and expenditures. The next report is the cash balances report for February. All of our cash balances are okay. Even our water fund, again, we do maintain a repair, replacement, and improvement cash balance on hand that we can dip into. The water fund overall is plus, and we should maintain that throughout the end of the fiscal year. And the last report is the check register report. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Considering the Civic Center, have they begun repaying the bond that we took out for the new ice surface?
Yes, yep, they started payments, but it was shortly after we drew down, or shortly after we issued that bond. I think that was September. But yes, they pay approximately $2,500 a month in principal and interest. They've been paying that throughout the fiscal year. So each year we'll budget for that as well.
I know it's really early in the game, but do you anticipate that the scenario that we envisioned for them maintaining their fund balance and being able to pay off their bond would happen with their decreased utility bills and so forth? How are we doing with that?
I've been having discussions with Brian routinely. I see him pretty often as he comes up here. He's indicated that their energy consumption has decreased as planned. The one thing they did see is the energy cost going up.
Right.
So that was unforeseen. Still, they are saving money throughout, and I think that is going to help. They did just have actually a sewer problem. It's going to set them back a couple $1,000s recently, but I think we are seeing that their projections were pretty close to being on as far as energy savings, consumption savings. Hopefully everything else will fall into place, and then Ryan's been talking about, of course, the additional team that they were looking at getting in some summer ice programs and tournaments, things like that. So it's kind of tough to tell at this time, but
As time goes by, I'd like to see updates on how the whole thing is working out.
okay. Yeah, I can certainly talk to Brian about that too, to see, polar bears are there, ice crystals are there. What additional revenues are we bringing in, and of course, the energy savings as well. Any other questions?
Thank you. Item D, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the two reports in item D.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Seymour, second by Commissioner Tower to approve or receive and place on file from the Finance Director one statement of revenue and expenditures and two monthly cash reports. Any further discussion on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have approval of the monthly check register report.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Seymour, second by Commissioner Tower to approve the monthly check register report. Any further discussions or concerns on this item? Roll call.
Sim,
Yes.
Tower,
Yes.
Seymour,
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes. Item F, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes we need to be aware of?
I have one change under item I. I need you to add and approve resolution number 014-009 if you choose to.
I'll make a motion, we approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Seymour, second by Commissioner Tower to approve the agenda as amended. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item G, citizens wishing to address the commission on items on the agenda. A 3-minute limit, please, and if you're able, please approach the podium and state your name. So this is for items that are on the agenda. If you're speaking this time.
Louise Massey, I want to wait until Mr. Giorgio gives his presentation. I may have some questions pertaining to what we're doing in the event we flood. He may answer all my questions.
Okay, we'll open up discussion on that then. Any further discussions, comments on the agenda?
I'd like to find out what the revenue is from the public safety department, meaning from fines and assessments.
Well, I think this is something you can probably contact the city offices. This isn't on the agenda right now. Any further comments on item agendas or agenda items? Okay, move on to item H, presentation, Andrew Giorgio, Public Safety Director, annual Public Safety Report.
Good evening. I'll touch on a few of the highlights on my report, and if you have any questions after. In my report, I addressed the biggest challenge our agency is challenged with, and that is the drug culture in Ironwood. But Ironwood is no different than what's happening nationally, so these aren't just problems specific to Ironwood. And our giant team and working with Upset and our officers are doing a good job, always working towards dealing with the issue. Although the issue will never go away, we'll just keep working at doing the best that we can, and I think they've done a great job. When I became director 3 years ago, I wanted to bring community policing to the area, and with that, that involves engaging the community with Ironwood Public Safety. I don't have all the answers. And I believe working together with the community, we can come up with the answer. So some of the programs that we've initiated were our school resource officer. That's kind of taken a hit this year. We lost one of our resource officers, Partner Lisa Bennett. Some of the officers have stepped up, but unfortunately, to be in the schools, you have to go through a Michigan module, be able to teach and be in the schools and be more active in the schools. And Adam Clemens is our only officer that has that right now. One of the things that we are looking at is pursuing a grant for the upcoming year. These grants are very challenging to receive, but we are working with the schools, and that will be something that we're looking at. As you can see, we provide a lot of programs to the community. These are programs that the community has asked us for. We do safe sitters, senior safety, business safety, fire safety, bike safety, a community drug program, and then we have our child passenger safety program. And then other groups come to us asking us to provide specific topics, and we do a variety of those. These programs are really kicking off because we have people calling out from Waters Mead, surrounding areas that will come do presentations, and sometimes we will. If it's in, say, Waters Mead, we'll talk to the Boone County Sheriff's Department or the Michigan State Police to see if they can follow up with that. But there are times where we step outside of our jurisdiction to provide some of these programs, which I think are a huge benefit to all the people in Boone County, and our neighbors. Touching on our vehicles, our fleet is in very good shape. I believe we should be able to go 2 more years before we need to acquire a vehicle. Our mileage is down, as you can see, it's down 15 to 20%, but it's kind of a domino effect. And you'll see that in the citations. Our citations are also down. The crimes that we are dealing with, we're dealing with more public crimes, more drug crimes. And the unfortunate thing when dealing with those crimes is they take up a lot of our time and resources through investigations, follow-up, working through the courts. So officers are spending less time on the road, but it's due to being busy in other areas of policing. So our fire division, we created the fire division in 2012. We have our public safety officers that are full-time officers, and then we have our volunteers. And we're always separate, and I always found that kind of confusing. We would have 4 or 5 different color helmets out there, guys. And on a fire scene, I need to know who, fire 2 and fire 1. Fire 2 means you can go inside of a structure on an air pad. Fire 1, you're not qualified to go into those type of structures. So rather than me stepping back and looking at 4 different colored helmets and trying to identify who can go in, we've created the fire division where we wear a black helmet or a white helmet. Our ranking officers, myself and the assistant chief or the volunteer chief and the fire officer wear red helmets, and it makes management on the fire scene a lot better. And also too, with the creation of the fire division, they train, we train separately. We train together now, once a month. And I made it mandatory. There was no requirements before I made it mandatory that we need 70% training. So big changes in the fire division side of things. We had 84 fire calls, 36 were working fires. And with those 84 calls, we picked out our volunteers 16 times. So when our structure fires, we call our volunteers, or whenever we have manpower shortages. So. Calls for services, those are anytime that we're called, 911 call, citizen calls our office or stops us, or anonymous call, it generates a call for services. Those are the documented calls that we have. Those are up about 3 to 4%. And like I said, unfortunately, business is picking up for us, and we're striving to work at reducing that number. But once again, those are the challenges that Ironwood is facing, that they're facing nationally. So, and in that, like I said, citations are down due to the fact that we're more investigations, our misdemeanor and our felony crimes, and then our drug crimes also. I did put a little report on this giant information. This is all Ironwood related giant information. Matt Sturmans and Adam Clemens are our 2 giant officers. They do an excellent job. They generate, unfortunately, a lot of the work in Ironwood. And as you can, when you read the paper and you see all these drug crimes, and I've heard comments, why aren't these happening in Hurley or Bessemer or Wakefield? I believe those 2 officers are generating a lot of work here. It's all over. So when we address a crime in Ironwood, it's just not Ironwood specific, it's throughout the area. And our last drug bust was, probably the biggest drug bust in the UP, and that was just turned over federally. So a great job not only for our officer, but Giant and all the agencies involved. So. Any questions on the annual report or?
A moment ago, I just had a citizen ask, Mr. Martell, could you repeat your question?
I was wondering if you have any specific numbers for revenue citations of funds or anything like that.
What I'll have to do is I'll have to contact the court system. All of our fines go to the court system. They take in the revenue and they disperse a few pennies to us. So, but I can check with the courts and provide that information to Karen and maybe check at the clerk's office or check down at our office. Give me about 3 or 4 days to gather that information because it might take the courts a little while.
I just didn't know if you had that on the top of your head.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Doesn't the majority of the penal fines go to the library systems?
I think 25% goes to the library system. A large portion goes to the judge's retirement. Am I on the right path here? Mr. Polk, you know this. And then a small portion goes to the back into the communities. One of the things we did pass, I believe it was earlier in September, our city ordinances for our motor vehicle and our commercial vehicle. If we write under city code, we can recoup more of those fines, but also too, you can generate more legal fees. So it's kind of a catch-22. We pick and choose which ones how we cite them. So something we're changing how we do business.
The net effect is we get very little.
We get very little. Public safety, unfortunately, public safety is not the money-making business. We are a service provider. So.
I have a question about vehicle depreciation. I like how you broke it down what the vehicles are and what the mileage is. What do you see as our next vehicle likely to turn over? Is that going to be the Crown Vic?
The 2010 Crown Vic, I'm assuming in the 2015-2016 budget, we will be asking for a vehicle. We just purchased the Dodge truck. It's a multi-purpose vehicle. Before we just had a plow truck, and to me it made no sense to have a plow truck sitting there in July time that we couldn't really use. So we have a multi-purpose Dodge truck, and if that works out well, I'd like to see we get another truck just due to the area that we live in. It's working really well so far. Too early to tell.
I have one other thought. A lot of people are reluctant to call 911 for a normal police call, and somehow we need to educate our public more thoroughly that this is the way to contact public safety, especially during off hours.
And that's a challenge not only Ireland's facing, but numerous others are facing. 911, I grew up being told 911 is for emergencies only. Now it's for emergency personnel. So even if you need to talk to an officer, you call 911. So the whole theory behind 911 has changed, and it's just re-educating. Every now and then we do put something in the paper, or we post something on our Facebook page, or just get a little information out there. But it's trying to retrain 30 years of teaching. And people do call our office, they can leave messages, and we do, when the officers check back, and we do check messages.
I was going through our comprehensive plan surveys, and that was a comment I saw, not a lot, but more than once, was can't call public safety. And they can, people just don't seem to understand
Yeah,
how to do that.
we are open 8-3, we have a secretary there, and then if we're in the building, we do answer the phone, but, in the evenings and nights, it's hit or miss, and 911 is the method to contact us. And we'll keep working towards re-education and reminding and working towards improving that.
With sort of the rise of drugs and sort of, we've sort of seen that grow, and it's been sort of noticeable. Like, what can we do to be proactive? Is there really anything we can do?
There's things you can do proactive. It's good to be nosy. Know your neighbors, pay attention to what's going on. If you see a house with cars coming and going, if it seems that it's not normal, it's not normal. So call public safety. I'd rather follow up on 20 tips that went nowhere and not have someone call and have that one tip that did go somewhere. So we do have our tip line. I don't have that. But even just calling our office, remaining anonymous, I mean, that's, the best thing you can do is get involved, be part of the solution. 10 public safety officers are not gonna solve the drug problem in Ironwood. The counties, there's not enough law enforcement to solve the drug problem in this area. Citizens need to become involved, and I know some people don't like to get involved because they feel it'll put them in a bad position, but you can remain anonymous, and, you just gotta be involved. And we'll keep working hard at it. I mean, our drug team does a good job, and so do our officers.
Other questions?
I'll touch on our flood update a little bit here, because I know some people have some concerns. Currently, I provided you just a little bullet update there. We have 5,500 filled sandbags. Our goal is to get to 7,000. And with that process, we had our OTCL set up to come in last week. I've come in on some Saturdays with the Saturday school students, and we put them to work, and they fill anywhere from 300 to 400 sandbags. We're going to be doing it again this Saturday. We're bringing in a few extra Saturday kids to school. We're going to shoot for 500. ROTC is going to come back next week. They were all set to come in last week, but we had the snow, and DPW needed the space in the garage, so they had to clear out our area where we were set up. Just been the challenges with the winter time. So we're 5,500 sandbags. Our goal is 7,000. We have 9,500 bags that are empty, ready to fill. Jim Loper has access to 60,000 in Duluth, he has told me. I called the company in Wausau, they said, drive down, they have 100,000, so we have access to more unfilled sandbags. And then the county and our surrounding neighbors are also willing to provide us some sandbags if they had any available, if we were in trouble. We do have methods to fill these. The warden has said that we can contact them, and they were in excellent service last year. So ROTC, Saturday Kids School, and basically what we're doing is watching the weather. I mean, it's perfect weather, 30s. It's going to warm up to the 40s next week, but freezing at night. That's the kind of process we want, as a warm up but refreeze kind of slow process, so things can slowly dissipate. So, we are prepared. I talked to Jim Wolfer. Wakefield has 1,200 sandbags. Bedford has less than that. I talked to other communities. Nobody has anywhere near, I should say, communities comparable in size in this area have nowhere near the sandbags that we have. So I feel that we're ready. And we have a plan in place. We'll be using the same plan that they used back in 2004. Or 2002, I'm sorry. I wasn't here for that. But in talking with people, this is what I was told in 2002, they had 50 sandbags ready to go in 2002, so I think we're way ahead of the game. So
50?
50, I was told. I wasn't here, so I can't confirm that, but that's what I was being told by some DPW workers that were here back in those days. So I think we're well prepared, and I can't guarantee that everything will run smoothly, because if it warmed up to 90 degrees and rain 6 inches, those are challenges that we have to face. So, but we do have things in place, and we are prepared for the situation. Any questions?
In past years, how many do we have on hand, more recent years than 50?
I'll check with Jason or Bob. I think we had 500 last year, or
We probably had 500 last year, and the year previous to that year, probably
yeah. So typically, the flood mitigation plan calls for us to have 500 on hand, and that's what the city has been doing in the past. So like I said, we're at 5,500. We should be at 7,000 by the end of the month. So the challenge, the problem with, it's not a problem, I should say, but the longevity of a filled sandbag, and this is happened with communities that have done similar things, is the lifespan on is 2 to 4 years. So they're not good forever. The bags themselves are good for 10 years, but that's unfilled. So. And I think the bags would be better longer than that, but that's the lifetime the companies do, so that we don't keep too long and buy more again.
Commissioners, do you have any other questions?
Denise, Louise, sorry.
Yeah, I just would like the commissioners to ask questions first, and then we'll allow the public to ask questions. So any further questions from the commission for Mr. DeGiorgio? Okay,
He can wait there.
Okay.
He's younger than I am.
and since this item was,
for 3 minutes, but I'll go real quick. Okay, I'm gonna go over this with Andrew. Andrew, back in the beginning of February, with Scott, you and I sitting there, we talked about possible flooding. You told me that you were putting a plan in place and would be available to the people within 2 weeks. Well, I stopped to see Scott Friday before he took off. I asked him for a copy of the plan. Doesn't have one, so do you have one? We'd like them passed out tonight if you do. I then told you that the best thing to do would be get a hold of the guys from the city garage, Neil, Jeff Weary, Joe, Coley, that crew that's been down there for a decade, and Sam Fontecchio, Chucky Thomas, and Bill Trigamble. Because it never hurts to get the experience from the guys who have done this and gone through it. I asked you, we talked a little bit about how many bags we had in 2002. This came from Bill Trigamble, Coley, Joe Cooker, Neil, and I believe Jeff Newman. We had between 2,000 and 2,500 ready. What happened is we didn't have the freeze-ups that we had this year. So the water department guys and some of the guys from the garage made bags. So there was anywhere between, they said anywhere between 1,700 and 2,500. They put them on some sort of a trailer or a truck or whatever in the world we got down there, some flatbed, okay? So that's what they had ready, not 50. That comes from them.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna tell you, because I'm a little older than you. You should have gone down to the source and not taken what people say. The source is Trigamble, Coley, and Cooker. Those were I went. And me, okay? They were involved in this. On 321, we said we were gonna have some of the ROTC people, which I know what happened there, and you were bringing some other gentlemen down there, some other kids down there, for whatever reason, I'm not gonna go into it. I went down on Monday or Tuesday, maybe Tuesday, I'm not sure which day. I went down to count the bags. There are 3 pallets, 75 bags per pallet is 225 bags, and another pallet that was about half full. So I'm gonna say 50 on that one, I'll go 3/4 full. So that leaves 275 bags made that weekend down there with the gentleman that you took down there, the kids, okay? Where did you pick up the other 1,500? Because as of today, there's 4,500, because I was down at the city garage this morning again, and then I called at 3 o'clock after I made a call to a commissioner, and they had heard that there was extra bags made, that had been made. Where did you put those bags? Because they're not down at the city garage. So I'm just sort of curious where we piled them.
Our initial was 4,500.
Correct?
That was just someone going into the garage and doing a rough estimate.
Okay.
Myself and Jason Allen went down there and said, we need to get a more accurate count. We went down and climbed over the pallets, counted them out, counted the bags, estimated, and realized that we were short on our estimation.
Okay.
We're closer to 55 to 6,000 bags, but I'm leaning to the conservative side, and so that's why we came up with the lower number.
I'll take that as your answer. Out of that, because I've been down there too. I didn't climb over the bags, needless to say. But there's a lot of bags that have opened, and there's sand all over the place. How many of that 5,500, I'm gonna give you 5,000, I'll give you 6,000. How many of those bags can be used that haven't deteriorated or disintegrated or opened?
That's where I think erred on the conservative side, we are estimating maybe 500 of those bags will not be used.
Okay, so now you're down to 5,500, right?
Yes.
My goal, and you know it because we've argued about this every week, you're telling me that the prison is going to be able to fill 5,000, 4,000 bags within an hour if we go under. If the water starts to come out, we've got 5,500 sandbags ready. And then the prison would be able to fill up to 5,000 bags for us right away. Is that what we said?
They could fill 5,000 bags, but it would not be an hour before the river is going to flood over. Once again, we're going to monitor river levels.
Okay, yeah.
And as we see that we may be moving towards the flood a few days in advance, we'll start the process. So,
What's your backup plan, Andrew?
okay.
And I don't know if kid was at the prison at this time, maybe 10, 12 years ago. Prison had a riot, 15 guards went to Grandview. Okay, it was on lockdown for 2 days. Now I'm gonna ask him, is your warden at that prison gonna say, forget about the riot, forget about somebody being stabbed to death here. We gotta fill these bags for the city of Ironwood, the hell with it. Or is she gonna say it's a lockdown until we can figure out what's going on here?
Well, I can't plan for every possible scenario that there is. Right now, it looks like we're online, where we have roughly 5,000 in line, whether some of them are broke open, good or bad, or by the end of the month, get a few more in plan. So it looks like we have roughly 7,000 in play by the end of the month. Right now, the weather doesn't look like it's gonna be rising temperatures too much. So I think that we have a good solid plan to start off with. And we'll just kind of keep monitoring the weather. And if it looks like Andrew had said, if it looks like the weather is going to peak at higher temperatures and we're going to have a flood, we can jump into action and kind of be proactive that way. But I think 7,000 is a good place to start.
Okay, so if we've got 7,000 bags by the end of the month, and the flood happens April 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever, depending on how the weather goes. And it may not happen at all, if we're lucky. The commission, yourself and this commission, is saying, citizens of Ironwood, you will be covered, you will come up with the 20,000 bags that we used in 2002. And that 20,000 came from Bob Turbin, who's part of the management team, and Bill Tregimble. That's what you're telling me, because I want this put in the paper, and I'll go down there tomorrow and make sure it's in. The commission is guaranteeing the citizens of Ironwood that are in this floodplain. I can walk away from mine, Kim.
Right.
I'd like to sell a building when I decide to, but you've got, and people on Hemlock Street maybe, but there's a lot of people that don't have that type of money. And if the city doesn't care about them, then you've got to say it. And if Andrew doesn't care about them, then you got to say it. But my thing is, if you've got 10 out of 20, you really are in good shape. God willing, we don't have to use it. And if we do, then we have to putz for the next 10,000 and get them done right away, or as quick as we can. And hopefully, there's no problems anywhere.
Well, I have faith in my department heads that we will be able to protect the citizens of Ironwood. And you can't, plan for every different scenario that's out there, but I believe 7,000 is a good start. Work with the department heads as we watch the weather. So I think that we have a fair plan in place.
No problem. Ralph put it in the paper because now I'm done. Now it rests on the commission.
Thank you. Any other comments at this point? Okay, that takes us to old business. Item I, discuss and consider authorizing submittal of a grant application to Michigan Department of Transportation, MDOT, for Safe Roads to School program. Okay, Mr. Shackelford will update us on what he has going on.
Thank you, Commissioners, for letting me come before you again. End of January, you let me come before the Commission and presented the Safe Routes to School slideshow. We talked about the value of helping students walk their bike to school safely. We talked about the action plan, including our proposals for education, encouragement, enforcement, and engineering. We went through the map of the infrastructure proposal that's in the packets again. Tonight I'm asking, 4 parts to what I'm asking. Approval of the action plan. Authorize the city to submit a Safe Routes to School grant application next month. And I am asking the City Commission to fund remaining needed engineering costs. And finally, collecting all 3 of them, approving the standard Safe Routes to School resolution that's from the state that's also in your packets. And if you'd have told me, I'd like to make a final pitch for Safe Routes to School. The Ironwood Safe Routes to School Action Plan is supported by Ironwood Parks and Recreation Committee, Ironwood Area Schools Board of Education, the DIDA, the Ironwood Business and Professional Women's Club, the Ironwood Area Schools Parent-Teacher Organization, and the Ironwood Planning Commission. In 2011, the City Commission passed a Complete Streets Ordinance, which promotes a safe network of access for bicyclists, pedestrians, transit users, and motorists of all ages and abilities. The Ironwood PTO has pledged $500 towards the engineering costs. The Ironwood School Board has pledged $5,000 towards the engineering costs. Comm Engineering has pledged approximately $36,000 of in-kind engineering work, reducing the engineering costs from about normal standard 30% of construction costs down to 14%. About $6,000 of salary costs have already been donated to the Safe Routes to School team over the last year. Safe Routes to School is the only U.S. or Michigan program out there that can help
pay for sidewalks. 2014 may be the last year that the Michigan Department of Transportation contributes 20% of construction costs. For example, in Wisconsin, submitting a Safe Routes to School grant application, we would have to come up with 20% of construction costs in addition to engineering costs. So we're fortunate to be in Michigan. The city in 2014 is going to build this gateway trail through Ironwood. Let's hope people get from that trail to our downtown, and to our neighborhoods, and to our schools, and not just have a nice trail passing through Ironwood. By submitting a grant application now, the city could spread out the cost over 2 years. And in conclusion, this is an opportunity to build 1.3 miles of new sidewalk and 0.3 mile new spur trails coming off the Gateway Trail, close to our schools and our downtown, for 12 cents on the dollar. And we'll be happy to take any questions.
I appreciate all the work you've done. There's been an extensive amount of work, and the plan is very thorough. I know a lot of the goals for commissions and cities are the placemaking to create a place where people want to be, make our roads safe for our children. So I think this is a wonderful program, and I think we would be getting a lot of bang for our buck, if we decide on this. It's just a matter of the funding. So I guess I'd have to see what the commissioners would like to do.
I guess I should add, so the engineering costs are now down to $45,000 with $5,500 from the schools and the PTO. To fund all of that would be $3,900, but whatever you see as appropriate, we could drop some more. Things.
To me, it seems like a great deal. What we're getting, $40,000. That would get some of the options that our finance director gave us. The MDOT project for the highway that they will be addressing Lake and Aaron. I know at one point we had set aside $25,000 to redo that. My thoughts initially would be to take roughly $25,000 from that project, since MDOT will be funding it, and break it up into 2 fiscal years, $20,000 this year and $20,000 to our next year. At first glance, that would be my thought, but I would like to hear what the commission has to say, and if they want to move forward as is, or any further questions for you.
What MDOT says and what they do are two different things. They are saying they're going to do this, but they have not done it yet. I would caution us to wait on spending money that we do not have right now. Our budget is in flux. We have springtime things coming up here. We don't have a clue what's going to happen. I just think we should just pause, take a breath, and to see where our budget falls in the spring here.
Do we have a grant deadline for this?
There is a grant window now for April 21st, which would work very well with the scheduling, and it would allow construction to begin, engineering work in 2014, construction next year, and it would allow costs to be spread over 2 years. We would find out the results of the grant in July before it was awarded.
Just Paul Anderson with Common Engineering. I met with the Michigan Fitness Foundation last week when we were down in Lansing, and basically this program, there is 4 different submittal periods throughout the year, so every quarter you can submit. This 100% grant funding is not only being caught on by Ironwood, but all cities throughout the state, and they're seeing the number of applications rise significantly. They expect quite a few more applications in July than in April here in the next couple weeks. So if you do choose to not put the application in at this time, you're just the fact is that your chances will go down slightly. There'll be more applicants, same amount of dollars most likely, and eventually the program will go to not 100% funded for construction costs. There will likely be a match in the future. When that takes into account, they can't say right now. But it's something to consider in your decision. And they did say that this application is looking very good and has a very strong chance of being funded in this next round. So I just want to commend Mr. Shackelford on all his work he's put into it. So.
I will say that I contacted Scott Erickson and asked him about the MDOT commitment to pave Lake and Air and also part of the cloud. And he contacted me back today saying that MDOT gave a verbal commitment to him that they will be paving the Lake and Air intersection and also a couple of blocks on the cloud for the detour. He says, I am confident this will get done by then. And I understand that confident doesn't mean we have the money in our hand. I do understand that. But I'll also say that grant dollars for infrastructure are, you never see it. You do not. I mean, we got the Jessville project, but that was something totally that won't come around again. And replacing sidewalks is, I believe, part of our mission, and I'm at least strongly in favor of at least doing the sidewalk portion of this project.
I'm totally in agreement, but this is, like, we're dealing with some real snowplow issues right now, like we're treating our sidewalks like crap as it is. Like, we don't even have sidewalks during the winter time. We don't have sidewalks around the town right now, and we built all these new streets, and I just think that we're really overextending ourselves right now. And even, I love this project, but we keep giving money to grants, and this is a big one. And I understand that the infrastructure part of it is very important, but as far as I can tell, I don't know where our budget's gonna be in the next fiscal year, especially when we're trying to split up projects over 3 years and 2 years, and it's really, I'm worried. I don't wanna be here and be part of the group that does 50 different projects and breaks the city's budget.
This is not a good time for us to spend money that we have not budgeted for. You know, it really, I like this project, I do support it 100%. But we don't have, I'm leery with the budget we have, especially with our springtime issues coming up. We just don't, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. I hate to commit $40,000. Something that we may not have.
It gets spread over 2 years.
It could, and if we wanted to budget it for next budget year and the year after, I'd be fine with that. But this budget year, I do not want to mess with right now. Until I know what's going to happen with this springtime, our bond, our falling issue, and that's kind of what I'm saying,
I would entertain the concept of removing the spur trails out. That's all about $10,000. And I've also heard a rumor, and I don't know how true this is, that the school system is giving some thought to moving the entire school to the LL Wright campus. Has anybody else heard that?
It was, the topic was raised at the last school board meeting. There still would be the alternative school and the Ironwood area school district classrooms would remain in sight. And most of the project is directed, would benefit Wright and Maury schools.
I'm going to, just to move things along. Go ahead, I'm
Are
sorry.
you gonna make a motion?
I'm going to make a motion.
I just have a question. When we talked about scaling back the project, right now we're looking at everything being funded basically by a grant. We're just looking at paying engineering fees, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And if you scale back the project, how does that proportionally work with engineering fees? I don't know if you...
Well, we scaled back the engineering from 30% down to 16% right now. And so, we look to stay at that same
So even if you start picking away at the project and pick away 10,000 part of it here, 10,000 part of it here, the engineering costs are really not going to change substantially.
Yeah, we probably need to stay around that 16%.
Okay, that's just kind of what I was asking.
Yeah.
So we have a whole project, a big project, and so if we start picking away at it and changing it, there's been a lot of work in this. The amount that we have to come up really doesn't change significantly. So my thoughts were to here move forward, move as presented.
If I could also add the $5,000 pledged by the Ironwood area school district. They came over that number. It was half of the engineering costs for the 4 items on school property: Park Street sidewalk in front of the parking lot, and 1 spur trail connecting Great Maury to there, plus parking lot in front of Slate School. So when they did that pledge, they were trying to cover their share of
contribute to their share, which did include one spur trail.
Okay, well, just to move things along, I'll make a motion that we authorize the submittal of the grant as described in item I and approve the resolution described in item I as presented.
Support. Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Mayor Corcoran to approve the submittal of the grant application to Michigan Department of Transportation for Safe Routes to School program and approve resolution 014-009. Further discussion, or if you need any more information on that?
Mayor Corker?
Yes.
If I could- Just from the financial end of it, if we're talking about going forward with it, we do have funding options, and I guess there would be, from a staff level, some direction on the financing of it. If we want to commit current budgeted funds, or at this point in time, unbudgeted funds, I would say from our unassigned general fund balance. Or would we want to budget this in the next fiscal year? If we're going through the process now, each year we go through, have a project list. This could be one of those, so it would be in the 2014-15 budget year. Sounds like construction will not start until spring, summer 2015. So as Ian did mention, it would be to do it over 2 fiscal years. It would be in 2014-15 budget and the 2015-16 budget. If we wanted to divvy that up half and half, 20 grand each year with those 2 years and not touch the current year budget. With the flood, I know you mentioned, and again, I'm not speaking positive or negatively, trying to sway your decision one way or the other, but with the flood again, flood with the freeze-ups and everything, potential flood, we potentially have to dip into our fund balance. We do have some funds set aside, it's approximately 20,000 to 30,000 in our local street fund balance right now, probably the same amount in our major street funds. If we do have to dip into those and deplete those, we go to unassigned general fund balance. At the fiscal year end, June 30, 2013, we had approximately $540,000 in unassigned general fund balance. 500 of that is set aside as through a commission resolution that we need to maintain 2 months of $600,000, leaving about $43,000 of unassigned general fund balance that could be used for other purposes as the commission sees fit, or to have there as a just in case. So those are what we have now, and the options for, again, going forward. If we decide to go forward, it's we use current fund balance. Do we do it next fiscal year or the next 2 fiscal years as far as the funding?
So we do have the capacity to leave this fiscal year alone and then draw off a fiscal year 14-15 and 15-16, just to be clear.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. Now, unfortunately, we're in the beginning of our budget process from the staff level. We're going to get toward the end of it. We're going to be having a commission workshop where we bring together where our operating budget is, and then we go through our project list with the commission for next year's budget. Now, if you choose to commit funds, of course, that will be already designated. When we bring a project list to you, this will be one of the projects that you already decided, instead of having this among your options if you decide to commit to any.
And so you would like me to amend my motion to identify funding sources? I'm assuming.
Yes, please.
If I could clarify, on the engineering, the survey and engineering work would, the bulk of it would be, well, not the bulk of it, I'm gonna say 30% of it would be incurred in the summer, from between May and November to do the surveying and the engineering, while there's no snow on the ground. So, that, I believe that would be in the current budget year.
This 2014,
Approximately a third of the cost would be incurred in 2014. Construction, then the rest of it would be gearing construction. That's where the bulk of the work lies. It's not just engineering, it's the construction management. The other 2/3 of the work would be in the summer and fall of 2015.
Okay, into our 2015, 2016 budget year.
Okay, well, I'm going to amend my motion if that's okay with everybody, to say that we said before and add into it that the funding will come from $25,000 from reallocated lake and air project funds. The balance to come from unassigned fund balance. Current year, nothing deferred.
Support. Motion by Commissioner Seaman, second by Mayor Corcoran, to approve or authorize the middle of grant application to Michigan Department of Transportation and for Safe Routes to School to allocate funds from that were committed to $25,000 for like an Air Street project and the $15,000 for the unassigned general fund balance.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion or concerns on this item?
I would just like to say that, if I've already said this, but I'll say it again. It is part of our mission to improve our infrastructure. This directly improves our infrastructure. This is money that we're not going to see come around very often. It's a great opportunity, and it benefits our children directly.
Again, it's about placemaking. It's a good project, it is a lot of work, and we're getting quite a bit for our money. So, that being said, could I do a roll call?
Howard,
No.
Seymour,
Yes?
Sim,
No.
Corcoran.
Yes. Motion fails. Item J, discuss and consider advertising to bid for the remaining old road police equipment.
All right. Could we make another motion on that? I don't,
Sure you can.
I believe that is possible, correct? I would like to make a motion that the commission commit funds of $15,000 for 2014, 2015, and $15,000 for 2015, 2016 projects for this. So that would be $30,000 from a commitment from the city.
Now, what you have to find out is, do you see a scenario where $30,000 is going to do what we need to do?
Yes, we have prioritized the work and some sidewalks, we would drop the lower priority projects. And for instance, the Lake Avenue sidewalk is one of the lower priority ones.
Is there any way that we can get a quick idea of what would be included and what would go out?
Because the school board has pledged, I would recommend to our team that we keep all of the things on school property, because they're helping pay for that. Lake Avenue was a lot of sidewalk that would drop, and then sidewalk further away from the schools, dropping things further away. Perhaps some crosswalks, reconstruction, some crosswalk. We're proposing to reconstruct crosswalks to ADA standard, perhaps drop those for some sidewalks there. And, but we'd bring it back to the Safe Routes to School team.
How much time do you have before the grant has to be in?
Grant has to be in April 21st, but we sort of expected, or well, not expected, we anticipated. Here's sort of what we propose. You come back to us, tell us what you can fund, and we'll submit the corresponding grant application.
Can you secure 5,000 private donations? I mean, is that a possibility?
Well, we got 5,500 so far.
Yeah, I mean, is that, if you were able to do that, I mean, could you then add things back in if that was done before the grant application time?
We need,
I'm guessing, I understand that it has to be.
The copies are near, we need to send letters to the affected landowners, so we would soon have to send letters, but we would probably, given the time, we would sort of, you tell us how much, we'll add that to the 5,500, and so we have some source that we haven't tapped yet.
You know, I'm reluctant to cherry pick because I know I'm hardly working on this. But one thing I keep looking at is the piece of sidewalk on the north side of Air Street. And there already is a sidewalk on the south side of Air Street, is that not correct?
Yes.
Why do we need both? like to have full private people.
So students don't have to cross a busy street. Many doesn't really like that. It's so close to downtown. But yeah, that is a big expensive piece. And if you tell us, you can put in your motion, and yeah, but perhaps that would.
Personally, a piece I really like is the piece on the east side of Lake Street, coming out of Freshtown Road. Students walk up and down that road every day, all year long. And when they get to Lake Road, Lake Street, there's nowhere for them to go. So I'm really compelled by that particular part.
Back to the lake, Air Street, at least at the east end, before the street widens out. Definitely want to keep that portion there. There's a missing sidewalk there.
Well, how about this suggestion that we do have one more meeting before the grand deadline here, that you bring us back something that fits more to Commissioner Sims' concept.
Commissioner Sims, could you repeat your motion?
I would like to make the motion that the city commission commit funds of $15,000 for 2014-2015 fiscal year and $15,000 for 2015-2016 fiscal year.
My question is, do we want to act on that motion without the actual plan of what we're spending our money for? Or do we want to table this, revisit it at our next meeting with a revised plan?
Well, in lieu of giving Mr. Shackelford enough time to be able to put this together, I mean, he's done all the legwork. I would trust him that he has enough knowledge to be able to amend the project as he sees fit.
I look at this, that you have $40,000 to have the program in completion as the way it's been studied and presented, and we're haggling over $10,000. I mean, to me, $10,000 in the big picture of things isn't that much for what we are doing and what we are getting. We seem to be a little bit divided on this, so I guess my personal thoughts were, if we're not going to spend the $40,000, I guess I would like to see what we're getting for the $30,000 and bring it back to our next commission meeting, if that would allow you enough time to give us some options.
It would be quite a challenge.
Okay.
In your package from last month, you do have the list of priorities, including the sidewalk priorities and the construction priorities.
I think what we could agree to, whatever number you pick, is that we'll work with the commission in the future and city staff in the future to, reevaluate that priority list and get everything that we can for the money. Being that there will have to be some cuts made, but we work with you on that. But I think Ian, to keep this grant application moving forward, probably would be best served with the resolution passed tonight.
Within the scope of the money that the school has allocated, that will cover the engineering for all the portions that are on their part of
It
it.
would cover half of it.
Half.
But when they offered that funding, that's sort of, that is what they had in mind. They wanted to help pay for the work on their property.
Because I think I was trying to remember the priority list, which I don't have in front of me, and the sidewalk on the north end of the parking lot, the school parking lot, wasn't that a lower priority item?
Perhaps at the time, but then since then, the school board offered to pay half the engineering costs for it.
Right, okay.
The brief answer could be, we would drop the Lake Avenue sidewalk, and if it suits your pleasure, drop most of the Air Street sidewalk. That would probably is what it would look like. Is that
About 25% of the project.
And other sidewalks further away from the school.
Sounds like an acceptable compromise.
Okay, well, I have a motion on the table from Commissioner Sims to bring $15,000 out of 14-15 budget and $15,000 out of 15-16 budget to address the needs of the Safe Routes to School program. So, looks appropriate, Mr. Sims?
Yes.
I will second that.
Motion by Commissioner Sims, second by Commissioner Semo, to bring $15,000 out of 14-15 budget and $15,000 out of 15-16 budget for the Safe Routes to School program, and authorize submittal for the grant application and approve resolution 014-009. Does that cover it? Any other discussion on this? Can I do another roll call?
Sure. Semo?
Yes.
Sim?
Yes.
Tower?
No.
Parkman?
Yes. Okay, moving on to item J, discuss and consider advertising to bid for the remaining Ironwood meets equipment.
Thank you. Before this evening, we are requesting a block bid for the overall lead community equipment. We're down to 5% of the original purchase price. There are about 12 items left. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but I just tallied it really quick. It's about 12 items remaining.
I'll make a motion, we authorize that advertisement.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Tower to approve advertisement to bid for remaining old world meets equipment. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item K, discuss recreational vehicle ordinance.
All right. Back in January, the commission had a request from residents regarding recreational vehicles, placement on the property, as well as number authorized and so forth. Our current ordinance doesn't limit the number of recreational vehicles that can be stored on a residential property. It just limits where it can be, just side of the parks. Commission asked staff to do some further research. Since then, I contacted a number of planning professionals in the UP that I am in contact with. They range from cities, villages, townships, and counties, and even regional agencies, to ask them what they see in their communities and the communities they work for. The responses that I received were pretty much similar to what our ordinance is. They regulate where on the lots the recreational vehicles can be stored, but they don't regulate how many. They don't limit or prohibit more than so many. So there's really no limit on the number that can be stored, other than making sure that they fit within certain parameters of the yard. So with that being said, I guess the question for the commission is, do you feel that our current ordinance is adequate, or would you like staff to do some further research and potentially amend the ordinance to address the issue of number of vehicles and so forth?
My only thought is that even though other towns are not doing this, it doesn't mean it's a good or a bad thing for us. And similar to the concept that we have a limit on how much building you can have on your lot, we maybe should be looking at a similar concept for storage. And I don't know what that would be, but I don't know if we should think about that.
Well, my personal thoughts are, if we're in line with other communities, I would recommend a change. We kind of have an isolated incident, what we're looking at, and maybe just keep an eye on the project. It seems to be getting out of hand, and there are further complaints, then maybe take a look at addressing this. But my personal thoughts are at this time that if we're in line with other communities, I wouldn't recommend changing our ordinance at this time. Commissioners, any further questions for Brown?
You pretty much, I agree with you pretty much.
Item K. It was prior to this moment, so comment is passed. Hearing no action, we move on to new business.
Can we let her speak? I would like to hear what she has to say. I realize that, but
Okay.
I would just go ahead.
Okay, my name's Cassie, and I rent 58 Grand. Oh, of course, I would love to.
Thank you.
My name is Cassie Schemberger, and I rent a house, well, it's a home, on 58 Granite Street. And I just feel every day that I wake up and I look out my bedroom window and I see these 4 campers parked in the yard across, the lot across from me. And it's just, it's a little disheartening because I chose the property to rent where I live because it's in a nice location, it's a big yard. I just don't feel that I should have to look at a trailer park or a camper. Like if I wanted to live in a different location, I could have. And I could see one, but it just seems like it's in a little bit of an excess. And I guess if you don't draw the line now, when is the line gonna be drawn? I guess is my only concern. Where does it end? And I think it's a residential area, and you don't have 40 acres where you can stack as much stuff as you would like on it. I don't know, I would like to see it addressed, just to draw a line so we can say, this is enough, this is too much.
Does this fit into, or this doesn't fit into blight anywhere, does it?
It doesn't?
It's not like, the vehicles in question, when we had our prior commission meeting, they're licensed, they're insured, they're stored there for the winter, they're in somebody's backyard. And like I said, as far as I'm aware of, this is an isolated incident, and I don't feel that it warrants changing an ordinance at this time, but thank you for your comments.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Maybe get some more, like you gave her one.
Our time has passed for comments. We've made a decision. I would like to move on.
Do you make the comment at the beginning of the meeting about this?
Yes, usually an item, when I ask for comments for items on the agenda, that would be a pointed comment. Item L, discuss and consider approving resolution 014-007, applying for a Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for Curry Park.
All right, as we discussed earlier at the public meeting before the regular meeting, these are the applications we're applying for the grants, one for Curry Park as well as for Depot Park. So the next one are these resolutions approving the city to apply for those grants.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution as described in item L.
Support. Commissioner Semo made a motion to approve resolution 014-007 to apply for the Department of Natural Resource Trust Fund grant application for Curry Park, second by Mayor Corcoran. Are there any further discussions on this topic? Can I do a roll call?
Sim,
Yes.
Tower,
Yes.
Semo,
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes. Item M, discuss and consider approving resolution 014-008, applying for Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application for Depot Park.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Tower to approve resolution 014-008 as described in item M. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? Roll call.
Tower,
Yes.
Semo,
Yes.
Sim,
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes. Item N, discuss and consider alley vacation request west of Hemlock Street.
All right, thank you. This next request we received from two property owners on Hemlock Street. Karen, you can go to the item when you get a chance. And actually, maybe you can go to the map here. So as you can see, the properties are, I'll give you some bearings here. This is Hemlock Street here. This is actually Norrie coming in from Wisconsin. The map's mislabeled. So Hemlock Street, Norrie here. This is Montreal River, so I'll give you some bearings. The two properties highlighted in red are the properties that made the request. What the request is, this alley here, that's a 20-foot alley between the two properties. They're requesting that 10 feet of that be vacated, still leaving 10 feet of right-of-way to access the properties to the rear of them. This property, this alleyway here is actually vacated. It's about a 10-foot alley. This was vacated a number of years ago, just as reflected on the map. This northern portion would still have to remain because the property owners back here have no other access to that site. The property owner back here owns property on Hemlock, so they have full access all the way back, so there's no need for that right-of-way to exist any further. But that would still remain, and then this is the one in question that they would be looking to reduce up to 10 feet. One of the reasons that the property owners have requested it is that they found that part of their garage is a couple feet within the right-of-way, within that alleyway. And so to clear up any title on their property, if they were to sell their property, this would clear up that issue. Otherwise, with the garage being partly in the city's right-of-way, that's an issue, they would sell their property. Speaking with staff and public works supervisor, 10 feet is still adequate enough for continued access. If for whatever reason, city crews or other utility companies would have to get back in there for whatever purpose. Discussed with Coleman Engineering, they suggested that utility easements and access easements be issued over the vacated portions of the alley just to guarantee that there's permanent access there if needed for utilities purposes. And with that, that's kind of the history behind it. Tonight really is just kind of a discussion, kind of get your thoughts and opinion. Let staff know if you want to move forward with this request or not. It would have to come back to you for a final approval per resolution. There's been some debate whether it's resolution or ordinance, but we can clear that up on the staff side. And really looking at, one, are you in favor of this 10-foot vacation, which 5 feet on both sides would go to either property owner, leaving a 10-foot width still down the center. In addition, we would recommend that any costs associated with this be paid for by the applicants, so that there's no cost to the city for this request, since it is coming from the public.
I have a question. Are the 5 lots to the west of this alley, you say the alley has been vacated?
Correct. The southern portion of the alley here, this has been vacated. The property owner of this piece owns fronts on Hemlock here. I forget if it's this piece or this piece. So they don't need access back here. They already have access from Hemlock. The rest, these other 3 pieces back here are owned by some different people that don't front property at Hemlock. So therefore, 10 feet would still have to be maintained here, and this northern alley would still have to be maintained for access rights. Legally, we can't cut off access to property, so that wouldn't have to remain.
Since it's riverfront property, is it more or less desirable property is kind of a question I have. And are we essentially saying that we're never going to consider that anything would ever be built back there again?
Well, it's not to say never. Obviously, I'm sure people that live along the river can attest to flooding issues, so whether it's practical to build back there versus are you able to is a different story. You can do anything as long as you have enough money to engineer it properly, but practically, would anyone want to develop anything back there, a structure per se, with risk of flooding?
But we're still keeping a 10-foot alleyway.
Correct, we would still be required to keep access. The only access back to those lots is through that alleyway that connects to Hemlock. So we have to, at a minimum, keep that at least 10 feet there for that access point. And right now, you can't see it now because there's snow, but it's not actually a paved area, it's just grass. So, both of these, this north-south and east-west alley, it's just grass, there's no actual pavement to it. But legally, it's city right away for access purposes and for the property owners of the property out there. So I guess the question would be tonight is, if you are interested in moving forward this, staff will come back at a later meeting with proper documents for your approval. And then the final document, if you did decide to vacate it, will be taken to the county for official reporting, which would then officially vacate the right of way. And then at that point, 5 feet on the north side, 5 feet on the south side would go to those respective property owners.
Now, the property owners of those parcels to the west, do they have a say in this process somewhere along the way?
According to, and I checked with gentleman from MSU Extension Office regarding requirements for the Plat Act statute. All it requires is a resolution approved by the elected officials of the community, and then the document recorded at the county to make it official. Now, you could, if you wanted to, hold a public hearing, take input on the request. That's totally up to you. You can go that route if you like. But right now, we don't have anything, at least that I found in our ordinances, that outlines the process for this type of request. So we had to refer back to the statute.
If the staff thinks that this is a good move for us, you know, I can understand that, but I would like to somehow give these property owners an opportunity to weigh in as part of the process.
Agreed, we should common courtesy, ask them if they have any concerns about it as well. I'm well in favor of moving forward and doing the legwork on it, but we should contact them and at least let them know instead of just doing it.
Okay. Would you like us just to contact the immediate property owners within this area here then? Or do you want to hold a public hearing, put it out to the public for comment? How would you like us to proceed?
I personally, just myself, think that just the people who are directly affected by this,
Okay.
I think would be reasonable.
And that's not where we're at right now, that we're just addressing the people who are directly involved with this alley, just a few feet on each side.
Right.
So I don't know, you know, involving the rest of the neighborhood, how conducive that would be to the process. I'm not sure.
We're not cutting off access, we're just asking for the footage on your side of it. I don't have a problem with it.
To me, the request seems reasonable.
If you need any form of motion, I'll make it.
Sure.
So,
Second?
Could you repeat your motion?
First, I will authorize city staff to proceed with the alley vacation request as Mike last described to us.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Towers, second by Commissioner Sim, to advise staff to move forward with the request of the vacation request west of Hemlock Street. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item O, discuss and consider rental lease agreement with Lady Pfeiffer at the City Center.
You have had these leases before you many times before. This Mimi Pfeiffer is requesting to rent space BA 35, which is right above that yellow BA 37 in the center there. You can see right in that little area there. She will be paying $40 per month with 4 hours of volunteer. You will note that the lease is only good until June 30th, and the city is looking at turning over all those leases to the DAP. We're continuing to work on that process. And then all the leases will be turned over to the DAP, and then they'll have to re-enter into new agreements.
I'll make a motion to approve the lease agreement described in item O.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Tower, to approve the rental lease agreement as described in item O. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item P, mayor's appointment to the Ironwood Carnegie Library Board. At this given point in time, I'd like to appoint Stephen Wesselhoff to the vacancy on the Ironwood Carnegie Library Board.
I'll make a motion to approve the mayor's appointment.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Semo, second by Commissioner Tower to approve the mayor's appointment of Stephen Wesselhoff to the Ironwood Carnegie Library Board. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item Q, manager's report.
Okay, we've got several dates. First of all, I guess Bob Richards has an update for you on the following the snow removal and freeze-ups.
Good evening. Just a little update, a little what's in the future for us here. Bob and I discussed our water freeze-ups and leaks today. We estimated about 220 to 225 places we have thought out. We approximately have now between 40, this is from December 4th, by the way. We have approximately 48 to 50 either service leaks or water main breaks since that period of time. We have a few that we haven't gotten to yet, but they haven't returned the calls because they would generally have to be hooked up to hoses because we have no continuity and there's no way that we can make contact. So there has to be a cooperation between a neighbor and a person that's still froze for us to help them out the best we can. Something else that came up during all this last 8 weeks or so, I'd like to thank the people that were so appreciative to our guys that were working for them, because that meant a lot to them. So I appreciate that. Also, tomorrow at 11:30 at the college, Gibbon County is going to be having I think is it a webinar, basically? A webinar with the state representatives from Lower Michigan. We're asking them to give us some money because of these hardships that we went through during the last 8 to 9 weeks. All the other communities in Gibbon County will be there asking the same for their consideration to help us out. So if you can attend, it's open to the public. We appreciate if you could be there 11:30 at the college. And I don't know the room, but I'm sure that if you call Jim Loper or City Hall tomorrow, that Karen would definitely have the address at the college. Other than that, fire hydrants. Obviously, we have fallen behind in the last few weeks because of what we've done for our citizens. And I know the snow is hard and it's heavy. If you can adopt a hydrant for us, we truly appreciate it. We have 2 crews out. I take that back. We have 2 blowers out trying to widen our roads right now. We are in Norrie, and we have started a little bit on the north side of town. We're hoping Norrie will be done probably Wednesday, and then we'll move back our work over on the north side of town so we get our roads widened. And we'll continue to go through the city until something else arises that we have to pull some of our crews back. If there's any questions, oh, by the way, there's one other nice thing that comes out this time of year. It's called a pothole. It's really hard right now. The water's filling them up, freezing at night. We put the coal patch in and it pops right out as soon as it thaws. All we did with my son that's coming here. Bear with us. We'll get to him as best we can. And again, you have to understand our crews are still removing snow. Our crews are still working on water main breaks, which we have another one yet this week. So please bear with us and we'll try to do the best we can.
One question, if you could, Bob, get us a number or estimate on how many hours you spent, your crew spent plowing service?
In fact, it has been worked on. I would say right now we're in the range of, for main breaks and service repairs, we're with overtime and just equipment, not straight time, we're at approximately $60,000. And with freeze-ups with equipment and overtime, we're approximately the same. But yes, it will be as close to the penny as I can get it probably in a week or so.
Bob, can you explain what happened last Wednesday after the big snowstorm? I had many complaints about people getting stuck in the middle of the road. Can you explain your plowing?
Well, I don't, to be honest with you, I get lots of phone calls and I didn't get any of that for stuck on the road. I did receive one from an email from a young gentleman that was at college, and that was 2 weeks ago, that was complaining about the roads, and I invited him down to our shop to come and experience to see what our lives are like. I'm sorry I didn't hear that. If there was some people that were stuck, I apologize for that because they didn't get a hold of me. The other one, the one day that was hellacious was that 51 degrees Monday, and at about 12:30 in the afternoon, the road just collapsed because of the matting that we had on there. And the matting was a lot worse this year because it was so darn cold. Our salt and sand would work. So as every time it would snow again, that matting would sit there, and sand and salt would not take away that hard crust that's on there. And when it did get to be 51 degrees, which scares me even now because we have matting again, we are going to have very, very sloppy and roads that are unreal. But to go back to your question, I'm totally unaware of that.
So what should, so like that same night, like I got home from work at about 11:30 at night and I got stuck trying to pull into my own driveway. What are we supposed to do?
I mean, your own driveway?
Well, no, we got stuck trying to get into our driveway. We got stuck in the road. Like who are we supposed to call
Yes,
this?
absolutely.
Are we supposed to call you or?
I think I talked to Rick that evening. We got done with cleaning off the majors and locals during the day. We knew that we were going to get more snow. We're bringing our crews out at midnight. People have to understand when we're plowing during the day and there's traffic out there, it slows us down immensely. It's more dangerous. It's more dangerous for our citizens. It's more dangerous for our plow drivers, and we can't do an efficient job because they are allowed to park between 7 a.m. till 7 at night. So when you start getting people on the roads, that makes us go up another night to pick up where we left off with going around plowed cars. So if you weigh everything, we plowed that morning. I do remember what you were talking about. And that night, we knew that we were coming out at midnight. redo everything again, and when there's people on the roads, it just slows us down, and then it just, we have a recurring problem the next night or day.
I think it almost seemed like a culmination of things where you have your staff out, find water lines.
Oh, yes.
And the same staff are responsible for when the roads fall apart, to clean those.
Absolutely.
And they're the same staff that are responsible for going out and plowing it. And it's kind of like a culmination of things. I don't think that we could really address it.
You're absolutely correct. Right now, we're seeing I guess you have to say, we're in a tunnel, and we can almost see a light. We're hoping that we have fewer freeze-ups. Things have slowed down, our frost has finally fallen in place for the rest of the while. Our snow, that does bring back something that you said, yes, we had 2 crews out plowing that day. We were out with 2 graders and 2 loaders that day, trying to do as many as we can. And then that night, we decided we have to come back in at night, which we were doing anyway. And that's where the debacle came in, and it was. And there are days that we run into conditions where everything's not perfect. And what the mayor said, Kim, that when you have 8 of your 12 or 13 people out trying to get people back into their water, someone is going to suffer. And generally this year, the roads have suffered. You can see how narrow they are. So what we've done over the last 8 to 10 weeks, we prioritize to try to make people, the elderly, the people, the children, the people that are handicapped, get back in the water so they can live like the fortunate ones that didn't freeze up. So it wasn't a fun year, so prioritizing was probably more for the people, and we tried to do our best with the roads. And again, like we're doing now, we're trying to widen our roads because we did get there at times, but we had the opportunity to bench them back. So I think it's going to turn out okay, and benching it back should help out when it does start to thaw floor, water running down the middle, and have another problem.
I have a thought about this. One of our goals is to review our snow plowing policy. I put it out there, and I think it got on the list. And I think we can do that during our budgeting process somehow. I think we need to incorporate our snow plowing policy into our budgeting process so that we can decide if we need to be spending more money on snow plowing. We need to get input from you as to whether or not this was a prior year. Are we adequately staffed during a regular year? Is this a once in a lifetime year, or is this going to happen again? And we need to have that discussion.
Well, we have our budgeting workshop, so it's time to start bringing that up then.
So whether we need a separate snow plowing workshop or just during our budgeting work session is something that we can think about. Because I've talked to several people, and I'm not suggesting that we do this, but the majority of communities do not pay for service laundry dogs. The city staff does not do that. And this is something that we did for our residents. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, but you have to be aware of the problems that are created this year.
Absolutely. The liabilities that go along with vinyl services with a welder, they're very taxing on the guys that are doing it, because you don't know sometimes when your car runs away from you and it gets into someone's home. It's very scary. It's not a fun occupation.
So we need to have the discussion about, is our staffing level adequate? Now is not the time because this is a budgeting item.
Yes. Again, I'd like to say one thing though, please, if you have time, come up to college tomorrow, give the city support, and we'll give it county support, so maybe somebody down in lower Michigan will consider us as an area that needs a little help.
Definitely, I think showing support would be very, very important. I don't think that they realize the realm of things happening with the water freeze-ups and then people.
And yet we know what's still going to come this spring. All right, thank you.
Okay, I'll finish with the rest of the manager's report. MDOT recently opened bids for phase 1 and 2 of the US 2 construction project, and Snow Country was the low bid. A pre-construction meeting for this project will be next week. Also, the city of Ironwood will be opening bids this week for phase 3 water and sewer project. That's our local project. A special meeting will follow on Monday, March 31st at 3 p.m. to award those bids, contingent on the review and approval of USDA rural development. Also scheduled is a work session for the boards and commissions, and that will take place at the Go Give It Community College on Monday the 31st at 4 o'clock. And one other thing, we have a budget workshop being scheduled for Monday, April 14th at 4:30 in the Women's Club room. Started just prior to our meeting.
We'd like to start that at 4.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's at 4. And it'll be a work session.
Is that it for the manager's report then?
Yes, that will end the city manager.
Item R, other matters, 3-minute limit. I have a few items. I just want to thank, the DPW and public safety and everybody has done over the past week or 2 weeks, or actually through the whole winter with the thawing and the plowing and doing the best that they can with the people that they have. I did receive an email today, and I would just like to take this opportunity to read it. This is from Chief Bill Forbush from Alpena Fire Department, and he just writes that the Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs wishes to extend our sympathies to the loss of your fire chief. If we can be of any assistance in this difficult time, please don't hesitate to contact me. We have a great team of experienced chiefs from all over the state, and we'd be happy to help in any way that we can. So I just thought that was very nice for another community to reach out and offer help in that time of need. And that's all I have for other matters.
I just have one little thing. I will not be able to attend the special meeting next Monday. I'm requesting your forgiveness for that.
I will make a motion to excuse Commissioner Seymour from the special meeting on Monday the 31st.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Towers, second by Commissioner Sin, to excuse Commissioner Seymour from the March 31st special meeting. Any further discussion or concerns on this item? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Any other matters? Okay. Item S, citizens wishing to items not on the agenda, so these are not on the agenda. This is a 5-minute limit, please. And I would like to say to the audience that this is not an opportunity to degrade staff members, but an opportunity for you to bring ideas and questions to the commission. Generally, this part of the meeting does not involve an extensive conversation or discussion on topics, but to bring things to our attention. So I'd appreciate it if we could follow that as well. So now is your opportunity, if you are able to approach the podium and state your name.
My name is Sherry Griffith, and I recently inherited the Ironwood Motel. And we had a water leakage. I called 911 requesting police officers come and make an assessment. They seemed to imply that I would have to pay cash for this. It would be 2 hours overtime and double time and 2 hours minimum. And I said, well, this is really a lot of water coming in. And I did find someone to turn it off. Later on, Brian Vince did, and then I had the city come and look at it, and they said that it was, the water was off, and it turns out it wasn't really off. And meanwhile, I had to carry water. I am disabled, and it was a lot of work to get water in February, and as I was 6 weeks without water, I finally paid for a plumber to come and set up the hose, bought a hose, which is something that I had thought previously the city might be able to do. Or I also thought someone was going to deliver some water to me. They have 5-gallon jugs, but it seemed like I was just not, nobody was caring what happened to me. And so a lot of water came in. It was $1,278 of water, which would have certainly been a lot cheaper to call the 2 hours of overtime, double time, if they had sent someone. It was a Sunday night when I called. But I did not really realize the severity of the leak because it's hard to get down into that part of the basement, so it was on my property. But meanwhile, they did cut the bill down a little bit. It took off almost half of it. But still, I'm on Social Security. We have no water. This is not a business at the moment. Maybe in the summertime will be. My ex-husband had it. My son was running it with very little success. He was little ADHD. And, you know, but we have paid taxes for 15 years here, and it seems as though the city was not really taking care of my needs. And I mean, I've really racked up my shoulders just carrying the water and going to the spring in Bessemer. I didn't know they had it at Walmart because they cut out the water in Hurley at the Super One, which I could have done and saved myself a little bit of trouble. But anyway, I was just hoping that instead of having to pay this $825 bill, which basically I have had running water now for a week or two, but I was 6 weeks without it. I mean, it's just on a hose, it's just cold water. But I'm saying I had to do without water for a while, and I was just hoping there might be some consideration. Our normal bill is $90 a month. And I'm on Social Security, I have no other income at the moment. And I have high hopes to do many things. I want to put a mural on, I have many plans. But, you know, at the moment, I just don't know how. I still have to pay for the repair. And I thought perhaps, since this is the worst winter in record for 20 years, and I believe it is global warming, and I believe it will get worse, and we need to make preparations. I don't think it's a cycle. I think it's just going to be getting worse. But anyway, I just came to see if maybe they could cut me down, forgive me some of that bill, so that I could get my business going, and then, you know, perhaps, you know, give back to the community that they have to me.
I appreciate your comments, and I would just suggest to continue working with the city staff to try to reevaluate the situation.
Well, they told me to come here.
And you know, there were many water leaks or fine that had to be done, so I'm sure it wasn't intentional that you were not addressed immediately. You had a lot of-
Not addressed at all. I mean, I didn't get the whole, I had to pay for that, you know, when you brought it. And, you know, it's hard to carry water, for me anyway.
Can I ask you if the leak was on your side of the meter?
Yes, it was, but when I did have it assessed by one of the city employees, they said it had stopped leaking. And then a few weeks later, or my next bill, they actually said, no, it was continuing to leak. So an extra $140, $139 had come in at the time when the city had informed me that it was off. And then I spent $60 on the plumber, which I thought the city could do that, so that was another $100. And, you know, I actually, the water main meter did break, so there's gonna be another $150 there. So I'm looking at $1,000 with basically no income, and have to make the repairs before I'll get any income, you know. So I just thought that this is an extreme situation, that perhaps they might forgive me, because like I said, my normal water bill is $90 a month, not $900 a month. And I did what I thought a normal idiot would do. I called for assistance when I didn't know what to do. So that's all I.
Thank you for your time. Anybody else wish to approach the podium, state your name and comments?
I was just wondering, now that the sewer rates went down to 10.05, are we going to be getting billed less? Or are you going to have a 30% surcharge on the garbage collection?
Are you talking about the garbage rates or the sewer?
Yeah, the garbage is going to be 10.05 per month.
Yeah, the garbage rates will be cheaper.
For 2 cans, so are you adjusting the garbage rates back on our utility bill?
Yes, that's how I understand it.
Thank you.
The contract is going to affect May 1st, but normally it would go through the
Any other comments at this point? Okay, item B, the adjournment. Motion by Commissioner Seymour, second by Commissioner Towers to adjourn this meeting. Any further discussion or concerns? All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.